Picks and bans. That's
It's not going to work.
P's and B's. Okay.
Watch it.
Go on then.
P's and B's, pretty please. See?
He did it when he just said P.
No, he did it.
No, I said it's a good thing. It's like they're ready for you. Oh, do I have to fist bumper as well?
Sanguine,
got a
first pick.
Fist bumper rap, God. It's a rough day for me.
Sanguine on the left side with the first pick and, of course, the first ban.
I think we'll see Merlin get through. Hype Unit probably leave it up again. I don't think they will struggle too much against it, but they did in the game. I think early on, Mr. Teep caused so many problems with it. They didn't really shut it down until later on.
He really did. Mr. Teep was strong stuff. I don't know about the duo attempt on the Gold Fury, him and Chalk, but I like the idea. Merlin, and more importantly, that shows me that Teep and Sanguine understand the character at its core, because Merlin, a lot of people just go, well, he's a strong mage, but one of the things that he really brings to the table is the ability to slaughter objectives via fire.
And the big thing there is getting fire stance the entire time.
Yeah.
If you're in the jungle as Merlin, be in fire stance and be ready to fight, because that's where he's stronger. The narrow corridors in the jungle around the Gold Fury pit shreds health really quickly. And you saw Achilles disappear a couple of times.
Merlin selected one more time, likely for the hands of Teep. Hype. Now looking for their 2 picks.
Will we see him running back? Hachiman and I didn't write it down what the other pick was here, but it
was
you don't remember? Achilles.
Achilles, it was.
I don't think I'll be surprised if it's here again.
Achilles.
Yeah, that was not as good as your rap god version, I guess.
That's actually exactly how I said it in the rap.
Oh, is it?
Yes, you gave it a little Latin flair. I went Achilles.
What is Sanguine going to select here then? Is obviously Sanguine to kind of like change things up a little bit now with how that game went. Sure, they did well in the first early game. Maybe they think it's, less to do with the comp situation there, which I didn't think was terrible. I do think on paper Hype Unit won the trade.
I agree.
Won the battle, rather, so to speak.
I would have liked to see a Guan.
Where?
Solo. I think Guan works well against Achilles, heals, etc. It gives you one of the stronger initiations in the game, believe it or not. People, I don't think people sleep on the Guan Yu ultimate, but people sleep on Guan Yu's ability to engage. He goes into the ult, and then he just drives past your front line. You try to peel him, it doesn't matter. He hits you a couple of times, and then he slam dunks on your mage in the back line. That is a fantastic initiation, and I think people don't look at Guan as an initiator enough.
I guess, funny enough, game 1, Sanguine were the ones that banned the Guan Yu themselves. They didn't want to take it away, and they've gone for the same 3 picks here, so I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a Guan ban once again. This Zhong pick is interesting. That could flex to the solo lane here.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it in the mid lane.
Oboronic plays it well.
But against a Merlin, against an Erlang Shen, we mentioned how much of an issue Erlang Shen could be for a Vulcan. It's going to be even more of a problem for a Zhong who has to manually run at you to deal damage, and if he can't run, it's not doing anything.
And one of the things that Merlin does well, we talked about it with respects to objectives, is strip protections. And so with that in mind, Zhong Kui's whole thing is bringing more protections than you might have expected. So if Merlin is going to be able to strip those protections relatively simply, and Zhong Kui is going to be able to have them, well, they just don't exist.
Odin. That's what I want from Sanguine right now. This is an Odin game if I've ever seen one. Nike's a great selection for getting away from Odin to an extent of the ring, but everybody else, Zhong, Achilles, Hachiman, are not going to have a fun time here.
I want to see some Odin. Instead, it's Ganesh.
Good job. That was his name.
Ganesh.
It's got an A on the end.
Ganesh.
Ah.
It's a sign of respect
to
drop the final syllable.
I'm glad you learned that.
I actually.
Where did you learn that?
Via SMITE. It's actually really funny. I
wasn't on cast with me by chance?
Probably not. Was it?
Okay.
Years and years ago, perhaps.
My name is Hindu Man. I should know some basics about the Hindu religion. I have to, by law. It's not by choice.
Well, it's funny. I met a couple of my friends who are of the Hindu religion, and one of his friends' name was not Rama, but something similar. And at the end of the night, I called him. I dropped the A, and they were like, "Oh, you know the thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm worldly." I didn't want to tell him. It's all because of video games, baby. That
Zhong is going to be in solo then with the Raijin selection there. More than likely Achilles in the jungle and Nike in the support role again.
One word, who wins?
Hype Unit with how they played that last game. I don't think Merlin's going to be enough here, although Erlang Shen could cause a problem.
That's at least 20, but we've got one game, maybe two. Hype Unit versus Sanguine. Common Tetios. Take us away.
Sanguine up against Hype Unit, game number 2. And Sanguine really should feel good coming into this matchup. They were strong in game 1, and they let it get away from them in game number 2. They just have to hold on, and they might be able to force a third game.
I agree. Mr. Teep had a good game on the Merlin, and I like the fact they switched it up now. JTask going from the Chalk into the Terra, having more control.
Yes.
it's going to be a good look. Kumquat now playing the Erlang Shen instead in the jungle role. It's basically taking away the Ganesha from Inbowned onto Truancii. A lot of switch-ups out of Sanguine, and it should prove fruitful.
That's right. They stole that Terra away from Wolves as well and grabbed that one for themselves. Though, as we heard them saying on the desk, it is indeed going to be the Zhong in the solo lane. Once they picked up that Raijin in the 10th slot, that did become a little bit more clear that they're going to have to put that Zhong somewhere, and they're going to let it be Zhong solo with the Warrior's Blessing.
Trying to strip away the blue buff, and Inbound gets it on the last hit with the rend. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, let them know, because they wouldn't have known otherwise, so you got to let them know that you stole it, you know what I mean? By laughing.
I mean, what if Inbound was mad about it?
Wait, is he not world champion Inbound? He changed it in between?
Aw.
Coward.
But this is a great start now for the solo lane, because last time it was the Terra Ganesha for Hype Unit that struggled
in the early
controlling. And this time, now it's going to be Hype Unit with the early solo lane lead, and that's going to be Wolves on the Zhong establishing solo early control. And that's problematic when you're dealing with a Zhong that has control early.
That is a great point. They're the ones now that will have this pressure on the left-hand side. They're already using it. They've got control of both of these blue buffs into the double Guardians now. The question is, are they going to be able to rely on the rest of their map doing as well as he did last time? Griff had a small lead over BMBobby, for most of last game that he just kind of earned in this exact matchup in the dual lane. Can he do that same thing again is the question.
And that's what allowed BMBobby, or forced BMBobby to rotate to some team fights earlier on, getting 3 early assists as Griff got that tier 1 dual lane tower at around the 15 to 20 minute mark, but it wasn't that much of an issue losing that tier 1 tower, keeping their tier 2 tower up alive. Solo lane, seeing the walls being used rather effectively from JTask, but you just can't keep up with the clear when you're dealing with 2 players that have blue buff and you have 0.
That's right. It's very difficult to match what Hype are going to be able to put out. But I'm worried, are we going to be able to see the same kind of contribution from Kumquat as well? Last game on the Susano, I really think he was that big thorn in the side of Hype Unit that helped them win so many fights. The knock-up from the Typhoons, the extra damage he provided. Erlang is really good, but they had an Erlang last time. It feels like they're just losing some of the control they have.
Inbound is a madman. Did you see what he just did? He just jumped inside the tier 1 tower.
He did indeed.
He took a tower shot. Truancii was so close to finding that dash.
Well, now Kumquat forced to get out of here with that turtle form, so they'll turn their thoughts instead towards Truancii. They've got a ton of damage, though, coming out from Teep, dropping down that Blizzard and keeping Inbound locked up. He is able to jump away and barely get away from the flames coming out from Teep, so somehow no one dies.
If Oboronic Thunder crashed in there before his abilities, he might have found some kills. Kumquat very low, forced to use that turtle form defensively. Mr. Teep without too much mana, but he cancels his back, trying to do whatever he can to keep his blue buff alive.
He is going to take a good bit of damage there from Wolves, who pushes up beyond the blue buff pit. It is secured by Hype Unit, who were just able to stay healthier in that fight than Sanguine were as they get shoved out.
Inbound is a madman. There's no justice in the world, Finch. The way he's been playing is recklessly aggressive. Jumping under the tier 1 tower to find a little bit of poke onto JTask, which wouldn't have even resulted in a kill, by the way. Almost sacrificing his life there. And then after they invade, he's basically in the middle of 4 players, somehow barely jumps over that wall as he survives. No justice.
No, and that's how Inbound's going to keep playing, man. He's an aggressive dude, and he dies for the squad. We saw it on the Ganesha last time. He was the one that had 5 deaths when there were only 7 kills total for Sanguine. So, yeah, he's more than happy to be the one that ends up taking the L for the team.
Who's that one character in Deadpool that's like just Fortune or whatever? Like
Domino.
Domino? Yeah. That's basically Bobby, or Inbound.
Yeah, Bobby's not that lucky. He dies a lot.
Sure, maybe. Okay, last game, but okay, just this game.
But in this engagement, yeah.
Yeah, these 2 instances alone. Last game, I agree. He was definitely not Domino that game. He was the total opposite.
That's Zazie Beats, by the way. She's great. Love her. She's in Atlanta too.
Oh yeah?
That plays Domino. Yeah, she's great. Nice. I don't mean the city. She's in the show. Is I guess what I mean. That might be confusing people because we're here in the city.
Yeah.
So
you confused me.
Confused by
I didn't even know that was a show.
It's a really good show.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Hulu, I think.
I don't have that.
It's so good. You should get it. Hype Unit, though, trying to see if they can keep down Kumquat here this game. He had a pretty big performance for them last time, the Susano. Now it'll be on the Erlang Shen. And they want to see if they can limit his impact and maybe make the path to grabbing that second win a little bit easier.
And that would be a good look, trying to separate themselves from Hype Unit. Or, sorry, from Heat Uprise.
Right.
Kind of hard to separate yourself from yourself, right?
Wow, that's kind of deep there, Tully.
Unless
Nice
you're
job.
glued together.
JTask gets some trouble too. He's been locked down the right-hand side. Fatal Strike won't land, so Layers just doesn't bother going underneath the tower. But they have forced out Sanguine, so it looks like another blue buff invades on the menu. In fact, JTask is still gonna die. It's oBoronic that gets the kill. Now can he make it out though? He's been silenced, but no, Truancii commits too much and oBoronic gets the second.
Hype Unit are doing the same exact thing that Sanguine did last game, only a little bit better. Gryph this time suffering the clutches of BMBobby's wrath, not to be bullied out game 2.
Nope, he said, not gonna happen again. In fact, he's the one getting the solo kill. I don't know that Gryph got to solo Bobby last game, so far BMBobby the one coming out on top. But you're right, they've been so much more aggressive about this blue buff invade than what we saw from Sanguine, and they're just willing to scrap over there in the 4v4 and then come back and steal the buff. They're trying to show them how you really use some early pressure.
It's been working out for them. It's been the right timing, the right windows of opportunity. Wolves has plenty of AoE damage. Even as a level 6, Zhong with the penetration boost as the only real damage source of items, it's just enough to start controlling the blue buffs.
Well, and that's why it's so important that BMBobby was able to find a kill up against Gryph there, because this solo side of the map, with the double Guardians over here of Task and Truancii, had really started to crumble under the pressure from Hype Unit. And they are still behind, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that there is somewhere now that Sanguine can kind of look and say that we've got some room to work with as Wolves does find a 2-man stun, but 3 members here. There's no way out for this young Zhong. They hunt him down. It's an easy kill.
Wow, what? I thought for a second he might have been able to get out, getting off that heal, but
nice heal.
With the rotation from Truancii, that was not to be the case. It feels like these supports are definitely leaning a lot in the solo lane. In the first 4 to 5 minutes, they were both there. And then Truancii kind of left it alone for a minute and a half, and like, nah, JK, I'm coming back. And if Truancii wasn't there, Wolves survives 1v2 actually, but that 1v3 just push it over the edge.
It's a little bit too much, as now JTask has to avoid those the damage coming out from Inbowned here. This is the closest parity to what we see in the SPL, though, at least right now, is that supports do start over there in the solo lane, and they do that 2v2 for a while. It's just a question of how long do they stay, how aggressive are they while they're over there, are they just splitting the farm, that sort of thing. But for the most part, that's what we've seen happen.
Hype Unit getting about a 2,000 goal lead 8 minutes in. Not looking frisky enough to go for the goal period, but frisky enough to kill Kumquat that was trying to get those oracles.
I said it, man. Can you limit the impact he had compared to last game? Bobby still has the airstrike available, though, so oBoronic doesn't get much out from his Taiko drums. He turns it around onto the Gold Fury, and Truancii still has the Dharmic Pillar, so they can contest if he can make it into range. It's Inbound trying to zone him out, but Truancii knows he's got the Dharmic Pillars, but he might have placed him in the wrong spot. The Gold Fury runs back over them, but it doesn't end up mattering. Truancii ends up going down. Layers is low, and they have to leave the Gold Fury alone, but they'll take the pick.
It was a little low, and you could tell Layers still wanted it by keeping the aggro, but he took too much damage from that objective. Finding the kill onto Truancii doesn't lead to anything afterwards for Hype Unit, but at least denying the farm of that support. And keep in mind, every single kill Hype Unit get works towards that Nike passive. At 10 kill stacks, you get an extra halo for additional power, additional movement speed.
Strong passive, man, just affecting the entire map. And eventually, kind of subtly behind the scenes, it'll just do a ton of work for your squad, and you'll be out in front. So Hype Unit happy to try and play into that. Doesn't hurt either that a lot of their kills are going on to oBoronic. 3-0-1 on the Raijin in the middle lane with Divine Ruin finished. Poor Teep is still level 7 on this Merlin, and he had such a great game with it last game. Him and Kumquat both looked excellent, and so far in this game, they're not having nearly as good of a start.
Whenever mid players have to rotate away from their lane to defend side lane buffs and not getting farmed, that's guaranteed. That really hurts if they're not getting anything from those defensive rotations, and that's what happened for Mr. Teep. Rotating to that blue buff, he invested about maybe 30 to 45 seconds of his time with about 25% or less mana, not being able to control contribute to defend the blue buff, not being able to help anyone survive that engagement, and also losing out farm. And that's why we're seeing this 2-level disparity between the mids.
We talk about all the time, man, how you can have that impact in side lanes and how it can affect the other lanes because it pulls them. It's the same effect if you have to dance around the Gold Fury for 2 or 3 minutes and you're not farming. That favors the team that's ahead because they're already ahead. So there's all these kinds of ways where if you apply your pressure, looking for buffs, looking for objectives, you can make it harder for the team to farm up and catch up.
Oboronic with this 3-0-1 lead, probably working on a Shaman's Ring, and I love it. I love the movement speed because you are rather slow while you're using the taiko drum, so any additional movement speed you can get might keep you alive a little bit longer or help you chase down a target that's trying to get away.
And everything he does hits multiple times too, so that passive where you take additional damage from the rest of their damage afterwards is very strong with the Raijin. So I love this pickup for him just from top to bottom. The question is, though, are Sanguine still going to keep trying to contest this Gold Fury? They've done a good job of delaying them without taking a ton of poke, which means they can still move in and try and contest, but it's been burned quite low already, and Inbound drops the ultimate. That Sentinel of Zeus is such a big slow, and there's really nowhere for Truancii to go. He has his own Dharmic Pillars, but Fatal Strike cares not, and he gets killed.
Just barely able to drop under that execute threshold. Benefiting from it is Layers, and that was a 5-on-4 fight. Wolves upgraded his teleport to make his presence felt, and now JTask trying to do what he can.
Mr. Teep's in some trouble, but Kumquat finds a nice taunt of his own that does indeed keep Teep alive. Hype Unit at least find the Gold Fury, so if it is just going to be 1-for-1, that still favors Hype Unit as Inbound jumps away.
11 minutes in with the Gold Fury secured. Hype Unit getting more than a 3,500 gold lead, trying to get even more kills onto JTask, but no, instead Thunder crashing away defensively, getting their own red buff. Nothing too crazy, but JTask wanting a little bit more, and they could maybe find it onto Inbound.
He's there in the middle lane without ultimate and has to use the blink defensively, so it does get him out of there, but that's a big relic on cooldown. I wanted to ask you about Wolves. He's gone into Gem of Isolation, second item on the solo lane Zhong. I mean, it is some health, it's a ton of utility.
You know what? We're going back to Season 1 days here, French. When Divios can do Warlock Staff as Hades, first item,
you can do what you want.
you can do whatever you want, baby. I'm not even mad about it. And I love it. Gem of Isolation with this kind of a slow before we're seeing sprints, because Truancii invested in the shell. So there's no way to get away from the slow from Wolves up until somebody picks up that second relic. And if it's going to be JTask picking it up, then he's not going to get the thorns or anything else of usefulness.
Red buff is at least defended by Sanguine. Inbound was nearby considering invading it, but isn't able to find anything there. But you're right, if Wolves can force them into some relics maybe they wouldn't have wanted to, or to buy them in suboptimal spots, then that's strong. I mean, sometimes Odin's only value is that you had to pick up 2 Phantoms instead of a shell or something like that, so Wolves kind of leaning into it and trying to slow down his opposition even more.
Or even if you can force out some defensive winged blades to prevent offensive items, that helps out your other backline carries. That's a way of being a tank without actually being a tank.
By limiting the amount of damage they do. Yeah,
because if you limit their damage by shelling, well, you can limit their damage by forcing them to pick up that winged blade.
That's a very interesting way of looking at that one. Totally is Inbound. It's continuing to poke out. It was indeed the Shaman's Ring for Oboronic as we thought, so that item's been completed. It still needs to be evolved at this point, though, but someone like Raijin won't have trouble stacking up that damage, which will eventually give him the passive to go along with that ring. But they're slowing things down for now. Now they've grabbed the Gold Fury, there's not nearly that big objective to try and go grab on the map, so no need for a whole bunch of fights.
Won't respawn for about another 2.5 minutes, so Hype Unit has plenty of time to kind of figure out what they want to do. That should give enough of a window for Sanguine to get level 12, but they might not be able to back and purchase their second relics before the Gold Fury respawns.
JTask went blink as well, so you were saying that if he took Sprint, he'd miss out on some other, maybe other relics he wanted, so he's not even going to worry about it. It just goes right into the blink, so he can drop Earth and Fury right in the middle of everything, I imagine, is the idea there. And I imagine we'll have to trust Truancii to pick up the Sprint to get away from some of these slows, because it's not just Zhong. I mean, Inbound Sentinel of Zeus is an egregious slow.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like a root, almost, more than a slow.
Especially when you pop your 2 before popping the ulti.
Oh, yeah.
It becomes even more obnoxious.
It's a meaty slow, and a meaty shield as well, so good luck killing Inbound. But at that point, once he's done it, that's about all he does, so just kind of get away from him. Pyromancer, though, under siege by Hype Unit. JTask can't get there in time, and they don't want the fight on the back end, so Hype Unit strip away yet another objective.
Clean disengage, 500 gold goes to Hype Unit, extending their lead to almost 4,000 gold. Mid lane, inbound, using the Sentinel of Zeus, forcing Mr. Teep's beads and his flicker. Boronic still holding on to that ultimate.
Yeah, not bad at all there from Inbound. It does cost him his blink, but you're happy to take the beads away from the Merlin anytime you can get them. Now, layers, even a big taunt from Boronic could bring them right back in and set up an easy kill.
About a minute remaining until the Primal Fury respawns. Getting the Oracles now. Hype Unit going to have vision across that side. No real offensive wards out of Sanguine to see how Hype Unit is going to try to position themselves around this objective. That could be problematic. There's so many corners around that side of the map that can be exploited. Hype Unit with Gem of Isolation onto Wolves, with Inbound using the Sentinel of Zeus to start off the engage. Could be a good way to force it.
Well, a blink from JTask already been used. That forces Wolves to ult defensively. He's been taunted back in as well, but immediately drops his own ultimate, and he ends up standing tall in the 1v2, a little bit of help from the tower. And now Layers is here to join the fray. Fatal Strike gets him away from the root, and he's able to get away from the wall stun as well. What a big play from Layers, absolutely slaying.
JTask doesn't have his dash now, going to receive the full slow. The stun almost canceling out that initial dash. The second ability going to slow, forcing even out the Dharmic Pillars.
That was good. That was because I think JTask was dead otherwise. Now Teep's in some trouble. He's been isolated by Inbound and Boronic, and right into the Tycho drums. Taunt him in. He shouldn't have beads at this point, and Teep goes down.
He's back. He's back with the teleport. Truancii now between a rock and a hard place, surrounded by 3 Hype Unit members. Third victim going down. Tier 2 tower could potentially be looked at, or transitioning towards the Primal.
Yeah, I don't think that Sanguine expected that one at all. 3 for 0 in favor of Hype Unit. And to be honest, that starts with aggression from Sanguine. JTask blinks in onto Wolves to try and isolate him, and he survives in the 1v2 long enough for Layers to rotate.
So it makes sense because Wolves doesn't have physical defense outside of the Warrior's Blessing.
He doesn't really have any defense at all.
But he has his passive.
right.
So that is a good amount of protections to survive long enough to get off the heal anyway. And under the tier 1 tower, it was going to be a risky dive 17 minutes in.
Hype Unit grab the Primal. They're going to look for the fight on the back end. I would like to recall Demon, says Wolves. And Kumquat,
he's so
look
slow.
How slow he is. There's no way out. Teep's in some trouble as well, and Aegis only buys him a little bit of time. A Band-Aid solution to a real big problem. JTask comes in as well, but can't afford to stand tall. Not against all these healthy Hype Unit members.
The Dharmic Pillars being used defensively. Still looking for a little bit of follow-up. BMBobby going to get zoned away by Boronic there, and Finch. I didn't know Minx moved that slow.
Egregious. I imagine Sentinel of Zeus was also a part of that one, but that's why we were talking about the sprint.
He was like a little snail.
He wasn't moving at all.
He should have been a snail. Like, there's the turtle, there's the mink, but when you're moving that slow, maybe you should just become a snail.
Well, they need to do whatever they can do to get Truancii to level 12 at this point, because
they
they need some way to get away from all those
Yeah.
slows. And because they went with the Blink second relic for Task and Kumquat, Kumquat was a long shot for picking up Sprint anyway, but because they put the Blink for Task, it's really only Truancii that can get him out of it.
That's true. They're not really investing into the wing blades either for
Not
themselves, so this is going to be useful for Hype Unit to keep extending their lead. They are blowing this lead wide open now, Finch. Over 7,000 at 19 minutes.
And I love the adjustment Hype Unit made between Game 1 and Game 2. In Game 1, they put those double Guardians in solo lane. They just got pressured out by Sanguine between JTask and Truancii, with Truancii on the Erlang Shen. This time, they were the ones that took the pressure into the solo side with the Zhong and with the Warrior, the Nike for Inbound. And the Guardians crumbled just like they did last time, but they took it to the nth degree, constantly pressuring out that blue buff Totally, and able to grab themselves a nice early lead.
And they want these picks to enable that Nike passive. 10 kills now. They got the second Halo. They already had the one from the 250 minions. They got the one from the 10 kills. Now they just need 2 members to be at level 20 to receive the last and final stack.
So they'll be extra slow, and Hype Unit will be extra fast, so things could get even scarier for them. as they get barreled down at. Wolves takes the 1v1 up against Task, strips away the buff, because why not, and continues to bully him out. This really is his side of the map, and Jacob Task just borrowing.
There's no justice. The rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. Sanguine Esports are just trying to get back into the set, attempting another 1v2 against Wolves.
Wow, the United States feels personally attacked by what you just said there. As unfortunately, Wolves is able to 1v2 very easily on the left-hand side. He's got some help now coming out from layers, but they can't dive them past the tier 2. At this point, Hype need to group and go do something, because they've just been kind of scatteredly fighting for the last 2 minutes or so, and they've got enough of an advantage to go push.
They definitely could, but I mean, they're the ones getting engaged on. 1v2 is Wolves holding his ground. The rotation from layers and also oBoronic was not enough to find any cleanup kills, but enough to bully Sanguine away to maybe allow a fire giant?
Let's get this one pulled and get started. Jacob Task is here, Truancie's on his way, but what a bait. They just immediately turn around and burn him. Jacob Task, that's the solo lane Terra that gets melted before the might of Hype Unit. They turn their attention right back towards the FG, but the rest of Sanguine are on their way.
Round number 2, it's on to Bobby instead, and there's the sprint. Truancii trying to use it in whatever fashion he can. Kumquat in a little bit of trouble against oBoronic's damage. Truancii is going to fall eventually as Bobby takes out Inbound.
He does end up falling, but I think they're okay with that trade. Avoids the airstrike, does oBoronic, and they make it 3 for 1. What a great job they did baiting around that FG, and Sanguine really had to come in and at least try, but they just couldn't handle it.
Tier 2 tower now will ultimately crumble. Not wanting to go for that fire giant, not having Inbound up quite yet. They will probably want all 5 members with it, unless they're just going to straight up wait until it becomes the enhanced fire giant, which would probably be a first. If you have this kind of a lead, you probably just want to grab it.
I think so too. They'll at least get the pyro so they can back, and Inbound can get here that much faster as well once he respawns, and they can spend a little bit of gold and then come back out. But it's been so clean from Hype Unit here in this second game. That's the difference, I feel like, between a team at the very top and a team like Sanguine that's looking up at them, is how well can you play once you get yourself a bit of a lead. And Hype Unit have time and time again forced it, they've expanded it, they've made Sanguine come in and take engagements that they don't want. I mean, they disengaged from the Fire Giant twice, cleanly both times. It was perfect.
It was so much damage. Truancii was just the second casualty there. I believe it was Jacob Task that fell first.
The solo lane.
The solo lane Terra, that's
Let me say
right.
that again.
But like no real health in the build. Going for
Sure.
Stone of Binding, Breastplate of Valor, Lotus Crown, you're having plenty of defense, don't get me wrong, but it's just not enough ultimately overall health. Does have a little bit of healing as being a Terra, but she just dies so quickly. That's the famous words of Husey. She does
Dead so quickly is Inbound. Was the only one that died from Hype Unit in that fight. It was actually his first death of the game. And even though he fell, he did a ton of good work in that fight too, to zone out most of Sanguine and open up the door for his squad. That was Fatal Strike from Layers. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it has been used. I imagine he wants that, right?
That's got to be a misclick.
Totally, on a binary scale, yes, no, do you want the ultimate?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's a good ultimate to have.
Good call. And now they go into a fight without it. The good news is, though, Sanguine don't know they don't have it, I guess. So they're going to spend the whole fight wondering why he's holding it so long. Jacob Task is the initial target. Inbound and oBoronic have him held, but the defense is working enough this time to keep him alive. He's got that spellbound Kusari. I think that's what's tanking him up a little bit more against oBoronic. But poor Kumquat, left alone in the back line, falls down as Layers rips him.
It's just a scattered team fight, ultimately. Kumquat trying to find whatever target he can. oGryph was able to survive quite a long time with that backline. Finally, Fire Giant about to be started less than 50% health now.
Jacob Task wants to try and make his way in there, but yet again, they just send a couple members off the objective and just look for the fight instead of sticking around on the actual FG. Mr. Teep is too low. He ends up falling to Inbound, and the Thorns damage reflecting back his way. Truancii will join him slowly in the afterlife. Bobby has to bead the slow from Wolves because it's just that egregious and still can't hang in the 1v1. He has no way out now without any extra help. He does have Aegis. But Layers doesn't care. Deicide comes through and
could be
Hype
game.
Unit. I don't even know if they need the FG.
That's an Oni Fury Wave Finch. It's not as good as a Fire Minion Wave, but it's
good.
still good enough to eliminate backdoor protections and look for at least a right side Phoenix. There is 2 towers remaining, so this Titan is still going to be a little beefy.
They're just going to go for it, though. It's only Kumquat who's up right now, and they might be wondering where he is. Layers, though, does have that ultimate back that he saved at the end of the last fight, quote-unquote, but they don't even need it. Kumquat goes down, and so does the Titan. Not even 25 minutes, and Hype Unit clean up the set.
So the Terra and the Ganesh stripped away did not work out, unfortunately, for Sanguine.
No, it wasn't enough.
Layers on the Achilles was good jungle control that they had. Also, so much focus fire onto Wolves that allowed him to win these 1v2s at the wrong timing. Like, if they ganked him a little bit earlier, it would have worked out. But the problem was they couldn't because their blue buffs were the one getting stripped away.
Yeah, it's almost like Sanguine showed Hype Unit something that worked, and then Hype Unit were like, okay, we'll just do that a little bit better then. Okay, not bad at all. Like someone wrote like a really good chorus, and they just filled the rest of the song out or something like that.
Or it's like those YouTubers that's like taking other people's content and making reaction videos.
Yeah, they make their own content around your content. Yeah, that's the way they did it. Ended up working really well for Hype Unit, though, in this case at least. A strong win for them, and they continue now to make it hard for Heat Uprise to catch up to him, Tully.
It's important to see how they can separate themselves, and this is a good way to do it.
Trying to get towards that MSI, the Mid-Season Invitational. That's where all the teams are going, if they can make it at least, the ones that qualify. Let's get it back over to the desk, though. They'll break down the set and the day.
Fantastic stuff here coming out from Hype Unit as they wind up taking the game.
That was really clean from them too. Like locking down Mr. Teep and Merlin consistently didn't really get things going that game at all. Zhong Wolves popping off all the way through. I think it was a really good selection of picks there because on Picks and Bans I was like, I don't know about a Zhong into an Erlang, but it went solo with the Raijin.
It did go well. I mean, the Zhong certainly worked out when you look at what Wolves was able to do. He commanded the team fights. He really commanded the presence. He commanded the game, in all honesty. And he commanded, and he asked for, and he received the victory. Just good stuff coming out from Wolves. Classic short lane stuff out of Hype Unit.
Finch said 2 words there, well, 1 word, clean. And it really was. Hype Unit just played to their one of the best potentials that we've seen out of them so far. It kind of just put a stifle on how good Sanguine were in game 1 and keeping it so even.
Yeah, a little bit tough there for Sanguine trying to figure it out. Had a better game in game number 1 than game number 2, I think, as you referenced there. But some good stuff coming out from the Hype boys. You can see here the classic old school mortality Wolves just bringing it to the opposition.
It's always awkward to try and deal with a Zhong when he comes from the solo lane because you're already trying to keep an eye on what Boronic's doing on the Raijin in mid lane, and then you've got this sneaky little Ghostbuster sneaking around corners, throwing out cards, slowing you down, getting extra damage off too. But full credit to Boronic as well. I know I gave praise to Wolves there, but Boronic, I think it was like 7-0 and something at some point.
Raijin's one of Boronic's kind of go-tos. When I hear Boronic, I think Raijin, I think Hebo, and
Vulcan too.
Vulcan, sure. And this is absolutely the set for him to go ahead and do it. Inbound, knocked up, knocked down. Yeah, you're pointing to it. I know he played
to the support Nike.
Yeah. Not my favorite, but I'd much rather see support Nike than support Zhong.
Can really see the difference though with Mr. Teep only 0-4 in that situation there. Didn't get a lot of player damage off whatsoever. And that's more down to the amount of control that Hype Unit, the fact that they just charged them consistently made it very difficult, especially when your front line is going to be a Ganesha, Terra and an Erlang. If they're behind and struggling, it makes it even trickier for the front line, the back line to get damage out.
That's one of the big things, is that crawling out of a hole was going to be tough for Sanguine here, looking at the composition. Just not characters that really work well from behind, as you said, and I think that kind of led them up for failure. Earlier in the day, we highlighted a slash line screen like this that showed just how close the game was. This is quite the opposite. 609, 709 for the jungle and the mid lane, respectively, here for Hype Unit, and then Truancii can't get off the ground, 0, 6, and 2. Just a little bit afraid to fly high there in the support role, and the rest of Sanguine just couldn't do it either.
Yeah, overall, though, throughout the day of console, nothing really went unusually. You know, it kind of went as expected in terms of the results. The only one that really surprised me was probably Dobos versus European Powerhouses. With
What a game!
Well, they were actually, European Powerhouses taking a game, mainly, even the set was very close to at some point.
That's what I'm saying, is almost even getting the secondary game there for EEP was just out of control. And I think a lot of times you sit there and you say, well, I think it has more to say about the top card than the bottom card, but that's not necessarily the case here. I think European Powerhouse just played the best damn SMITE that they played all split.
You can see that in the SPL sometimes too, where you'll watch a bottom team take on someone that's middle of the pack, and you may be like, well, you know, the middle of the pack team didn't respect him enough, but really it's just them guys grinding back up towards the top.
Absolutely true. Hype Unit grinding and staying up on top. The old Smith grind here coming out from the top boys. Hype Unit grinding past and looking down at Sanguine. They can't seem to find it past, but they are not the bottom. 3 and 6.
Don't be upset if you're a Heat Uprise fan, though. You've still got chances. There's only a 2-game difference, and if Heat Uprise manage to find victories over Hype Unit, I'm not sure what their schedule's left for the rest of the season. But if they do that, it changes the standings up very, very quickly. And the way Sanguine's playing right now, they are definitely the party poopers.
Yes, definitely the party poopers.
Did you not like that? Sorry.
No, you just threw me for a loop, and it's we were discussing Covey and the setup. We saw the Covey and the Koi setup, right? Where Covey has to kind of commit before, and so there, as the commentator was committing, I was like, yeah, the party poopers. I committed before I knew what you were going to say.
Keep an eye out for it. I think Sanguine will do that.
So that's what we've got going on the professional side of things. But if you want to take things home to your own game, take a look at the fairy tale chest. Once upon a time, there was a man with gems, and then after that, he wound up with some skins. So you can be that guy.
I was going to say, I don't even know what's in the fairy tale chest, but then I saw in the corner down there. There it is. Yeah, it's the Artio skin.
Yep.
I like that skin as well, the Red Riding Hood one. The wolf is pretty loud on it, too.
Really?
Yeah, also the bear, I should
Nowhere near as loud as Kumquat.
You know what could be the only thing that could end this show perfectly? The only way to end the day really is a good old rap, in my opinion.
Fine, but before the rap, let's talk about High Res Expo. This is one of the things that I'm not rapping. I ain't a rapper.
Do it. You did a rap.
I actually have rapped in the past. Not the SMITE rap.
You did say it as well. He has actually officially rapped in Atlanta now.
That was on my bucket list. I did want to write a rap song in Atlanta. I still have yet to do that, but the SMITE rap happened. And if you want to watch it live, highresexpo.com. Buy your tickets. I won't promise a live rendition of it, but maybe you can bug Isaiah.
Yeah, come see us, idiots. We'll be there once again at High Res Expo, trying to bring you the World Championships once again. See who wins this year.
Fish.
I'm not going to tell you the script result just yet, though.
Exactly. So a fantastic day of Console Monday as per usual. Tomorrow we'll be looking at some of the minor league action. 11 a.m. as per usual. What was your highlight of the day, Hindu?
Highlight European powerhouses. Funny enough, wasn't expecting to come into it, but I kind of enjoyed that set.
It was definitely a lot of fun. As I said, tomorrow the minor league is there. 11 a.m. Be there or be square like a filet of fish. We'll see you tomorrow.
The SCL, brought to you by Titanforge, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, Steel Series, Alienware, Skillshot.